This is good stuff. Did you hear about Ted Cruz? Well, he's trending on Twitter for the past couple of hours because something about Texas, and he lied to them and ran to Cuba. That's what
He's
I
not
know
in.
so far.
He's in. He's in Cancun, and I want to know what the poor people
Oh.
of Cancun have done to deserve that. But the story is that he left with his family on his family's request, or on his daughter's request, and his daughters are like 10 and 12, and they said, "Can we go to Cancun, Daddy?" And he said, "Okay," seeing as there's a week off school because of the fact that everything's frozen over in Texas. So he decides to book a trip for his family, and I think there's some other families going as well, and they're all going down to Cancun. And I think, Ted Cruz has forgotten that he's a public servant. He's a senator, and that there's things he can actually do to help people. So he's completely forgotten that. He flew off to Cancun. People saw him. They saw him on the plane. People, tweeted pics of him on the plane. And the story goes, he's come back. He's returned, saying that was the plan all along. He was just going to take his family down there, and then come straight back. And I'm not sure who actually travels to a foreign country just to deliver their 2 children and their wife, and then come straight back. So a few things for that don't add up. The fact that he had a lot of luggage. People were saying for an overnight trip, he had quite a large set of bags for himself. And the other problem is that I think someone who either works for the airline, or someone who's, I'm probably sure it's someone who's worked for the airline, said that he changed his flight. He was actually due to come back on Saturday.
Then there was something else. Well, there was something else going on about how his daughter ratted him out. I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with that, but apparently his daughter ratted him out also.
I think that's perfect.
So she
I think that's exactly what's needed. Yeah. But I just don't understand the story. Yeah, because he's really thrown his 2 daughters and his wife under the bus. He's letting them be the excuse, as to why he just made a terrible decision. So I just don't understand. Obviously, he thinks he's better than everybody. He thinks he's extremely privileged, and he thinks he can do this. But it just looks terrible, and it is terrible. While he can't, be reconnecting people's, gas and electricity, he could be making sure that people have enough food and people have somewhere warm to go, and like a couple of other people have been doing. So Beto O'Rourke has been part of a huge campaign to make sure that people in Texas are safe and fed, and not stranded, left out to die. But someone like Ted Cruz just thinks, let's just leave the country in the middle of a pandemic anyway. So apart from the fact that, what's going on right now in Texas is pretty horrible, what's going on in the world is pretty horrible. And taking an international flight to go to a resort is probably not the best thing to do anyway.
No.
But yeah, like why would you do that? And why would you take your children? And why would you expose your children like that? I don't know. I don't have kids, as you know, as I think I don't have kids. But if my kids 10 and 12 came to me and said, "Daddy, can we go to Cancun?" I'd be going, "No. This is a really, really bad time. And you can go to your room and watch television, like everybody else." That's the best that can be done.
Right.
I don't know. What would you do? What would you do?
What would I do?
If your kids were asking to go on an international flight, I know it's cheap. People have been saying, "Oh, it's really cheap to go. It's really cheap to go," but that's not the point.
I kind of understand that. However, I will say when I lived in New Jersey, we had Superstorm Sandy, and I lived right in between the ocean and the bay, and there was one block in between us, and at a certain point the ocean and the bay met and went up a whole floor. And I lived on the second floor. So what we wound up doing was we hightailed it out of there. We got in our car. We took the dog. We took Mark's parents, his brother, their dogs, and we went to Pennsylvania. And but I'm not a public servant.
No, you're not. You don't. You don't have the responsibility of all of those people. You had the responsibility of your family, and it sounds like you did the right thing for your family.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of a difference there. I do need to tell you
yes.
what's been going on in Japan with the Olympics. Now, we still don't know exactly what's going to happen. They all want to move forward, and I really don't know what's going on as far as that's concerned. But a few days ago, the head of the Olympic Organizing Committee in Japan, who is an ex-prime minister of Japan, made a really terrible sexist statement. Unfortunately for him, he said that women spoke up too much in meetings, and when they did, it sort of gave permission for other women to speak up in meetings as well, and they just talk too much. That's the kind of translated version of what he said.
That sounds very old school Japan, like geisha Japan.
Yeah. It's a very, and I'm sure culturally that women didn't really speak very much, and this was kind of okay in his eyes. And initially he didn't really deny it. He didn't say that there was anything wrong with it. He didn't say he felt sorry for saying it. But a few days later, he did actually resign.
He completely resigned. He was just
He resigned. So that's a good move for, I think, Japan, and I think it's a good move for understanding sort of sexism in the workplace in a place like Japan, which I think is still gripping onto old traditions, which really aren't helpful. But what's happened not long after that, so that's a nice thing. That was a really nice thing to hear. It was like, oh, great! I'm glad. I'm glad he's taking. I don't think he had to necessarily resign, but accepting what you say and what you do, and realizing that it's not right, and that you should encourage, the smart people at the table to talk, whoever they are, whatever gender they are. That's my opinion. But a couple of days after that, they had one of the parties in Japan has come under fire for what does it say here, for inviting women to look and not talk at key meetings. So after we had this issue with the ex-prime minister, who is the head of the Olympic Committee in Japan, he took the fall, he walked away. We now have one of the political parties in Japan coming out and saying basically exactly the same thing. Women, you're allowed to come to the meeting, but just don't say anything, because we don't want to hear what you have to say. And it's really sad. It is a really sad state. I don't know, like you live in the US. If anyone tried to shut down, someone because of their gender, would you? It just wouldn't be acceptable. It wouldn't be acceptable here where I am, anywhere where I've been. I just can't imagine that being a thing.
Right.
But I think culturally for these people, who've lived in a different time in a different place in the world, I think it is a bit acceptable. But learning that it's no longer acceptable, I think, is where they probably need to go. But it's just really sad to see that happening. But have you had any experiences like that personally?
Well, I hate when women talk. Like, they just really need to zip it and barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. So, no. No, honestly, let's...
Well, now we know what you think.
Now we're going to get canceled. Now is when my PR team's going to swoop in and be like, yeah, we need you to step down now. Okay.
And we need you to go to Cancun.
Yes. Hawaii. I'm voting for Hawaii. But
okay, you want to go to Hawaii.
I want to go to Hawaii. The penguins are cute in Hawaii. But
Okay.
Honestly, here in America, what we have a lot of are things like it. It's not so much political, but it's pop culture, it's media, it's social media, it's Paula Dean calling people the N word because that's her age and that's where she's from, and she's still fighting and struggling to get back up, in the good graces of the United States, so she could continue selling her wares. We've had Mario Batali, who, in the height of the Me Too movement, he, before any of the women could step in and say he did this to me, he just quit. He resigned everything. He resigned his TV show. You didn't see him in any of the 3 TV shows he actually was in. His restaurants were sold and put under different
Wow.
management.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people are like that. Bill Cosby, look what happened to him. However, here in America, I will say there is a such thing as, after a period of time goes by, apparently we have forgiveness, or people forget, and the almighty dollar is more important than virtue. And I say that mainly because if you think about it, so Bill Cosby with the Cosby Show, all the Cosby Show episodes were pulled out of syndication. You couldn't find it anymore on social media. No streaming services would carry it. No main channels would carry it. No cable company would carry it. You couldn't buy the DVDs anymore. So they weren't making any money anymore for a very long time. Look at Roseanne Barr. She said something really horrible about a political figure. What was it? It was a female figure she had said something really horrible about while she was rebooting her Roseanne show. And they killed her off of the show. They bought the rights from her, or took the rights from her. Then you couldn't find Roseanne anywhere. You couldn't buy it. Same thing. You couldn't buy it. It wasn't streaming, out of syndication, completely out of rotation anywhere. But if you look for them now, you could still find the Cosby Show on TV again. I just noticed a couple of days ago, Netflix started carrying Roseanne, all 8 seasons from the 80s into the 90s. It's back. Why? Because it makes money. That's why.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Prime Minister or the ex-Prime Minister of Japan is coming back. As a matter of fact, as strict as Japan is, I don't know if he's still alive, to be honest. But
oh no, I'm pretty sure he's still alive, and he's not young, and that's another thing. I think him walking away from this is no great disaster, because he's done a lot in his life. He's been the Prime Minister. What does he need to do?
But here's the question: do you think his PR team swooped in and said, "Oh no, you got to go now," or the people of his house say, "No, you're an old senile man now. You got to go. Time to go to bed, Dad. We're done here." I can't imagine. I can't imagine there wasn't some kind of backlash, like ramen noodles weren't going to pull the sponsorship for the Prime Minister of Japan, and they said, no, don't do it. We're going to go ahead and we'll pull him, so we still have the commercialism, so we can make money off of this. I think they were afraid that they were going to lose the Olympics because he said that, and that's why they pulled him. As a matter of fact, Governor Ron DeSantis here in Florida said, hey, if Japan's not going to do it anymore, bring it to Florida. Orlando will be able to do it. We'll take the money, because Ron DeSantis has decided, or Governor Ron DeSantis has decided at some point, that making money is his way of showing the people of Florida that he cares about them. Instead of shutting things down and worrying about their health, it's all about the almighty dollar. And that's what's going on right now, which is kind of sad. But that's his train of thought. So I'm kind of wondering if Japan was worried that they were going to lose sponsorships and, the Olympics, which is a huge thing. And that's why
Yeah,
they
look, I
pulled
think
him.
it's a valid call. Yeah, I think it's a valid call.
Do you
I
think
think
he woke up and
initially
said,
that they weren't.
Do you think he woke up one day and actually said, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to be the bigger person and step back now. He didn't apologize in the beginning. Like, someone yanked his ass out. Like, that's what happened.
No. I think initially there was no concern with what he'd said, but I think the world sort of clocked on to what was going on. People are looking at the country now because of the Olympics, whenever they will be. And I think that you're right. The PR team did come in and say that this is not going to work. We need to do something about this. Probably very much pushed by sponsorship, but I think they've got a lot more problems going on at the moment. Like, are the sponsors going to get any airtime for anything? Is anything actually going to happen? But I don't think that he necessarily thought he'd done the wrong thing. And as I said, I think he can easily step down and just walk away going, well, I've done some amazing things in my life and this isn't really a big problem for me. Right. And he can just wander off into the sunset. So that's my concern. But I think when you mentioned that the Governor DeSantis was saying, bring the Tokyo Olympics to Orlando, I think would be hilarious, and I'd love it if they were still branded as the Tokyo Olympics as well. That would be brilliant.
He wouldn't care. He would not care as long as he was getting the taxes for that. Yeah, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suppose, but I would be asking, why are most of the people I can see all chubby and white? What's going on there?
Welcome to America. Yes. I have to say, though, oh my God. No.
Sorry.
No, and I really do think, just to pile on to this, do you think Americans are going to be like, oh, we're going to go to Japan now, even though we know they hate women, and the gymnasts are all going to go and be like, yay, Japan! I don't think they would.
No, I think what it's just shown is that that the sexism that is sort of ingrained into culture, and it's like this in many places in the world. It's seen as a small step up. It's seen as a positive direction to go. And look, I don't think any of the people that were going to compete would have pulled out over that statement if nothing was done. I think at this late stage there is too many other things to worry about. I think there's bigger concerns over people's health, and I think that should come first. I think people should be more worried about going somewhere and making sure that their health is not compromised, and the people that are organizing it, their health is not compromised, and anyone else who's associated with it, because even to put on the Olympics with just athletes is still a mammoth task, and and would really be risking a lot of people's health and well-being, and having hundreds and hundreds of people coming from all around the world to come together it's just, the whole thing sounds quite ludicrous. So while I don't want to belittle the incident and say that it wasn't important, in the scheme of things, I wouldn't be saying, oh well, now he said that, I'm not going to go.
I wasn't going anyway, so whatever.
Correct, and I think that's the right answer. I wasn't going in the first place until we have a good enough plan, until testing is easily accessible and accurate, and the vaccination is more widely spread. All of that kind of stuff. I think that's really what's important here.
Well, it's all right, but
I'm really glad that they've stepped forward.
But it's not like Japan Airlines is sending you postcards or anything to come to Japan, are they?
I have a postcard. It's not from Japan Airlines. It's from a friend of mine in Japan, and he's taken a lovely picture. He's taken a lovely picture of an aircraft. That's what it's about.
Okay.
That's what it's about. It's not It's not propaganda.
Oh.
But to be honest, the Japanese government had offered people free flights within Japan if you were traveling to the Olympics. Now,
I heard that.
I don't know where all this stands now, but that was something that was offered, and people took up those deals, because I think that the big issue for Japan was initially, well, people are just going to come to Tokyo, and they're not going to see any of the rest of the country. So what we should do is offer them some free flights and accommodation to get out and see the rest of Japan, they can then go home and say how exciting it is.
Well, right, and that's a great marketing ploy, and that's going to be things that I think everyone's going to start employing in 2022. I guess, when everything starts completely reopening and they want the economy in all around the world to reopen and get up there. I will say I heard by the end of 2020, Japan's travel industry was down by 90% or 99%.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Completely crazy. They weren't letting anyone in.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. I will see you at the Olympics, though.
I'll be there. Javelin, I think. That's my sport. I like the idea of throwing something.
You like big sticks. You like big sticks.
Yeah. The pointy end and throwing it, and that's more exciting to me, really. I'll be honest.
You like to throw it, and I like to catch it. We're good. All right.